This is swansai domi, pickled greens and beans, and it's one of my personal all-time favorite dishes to cook. It's a Guizhou dish, and one of those simple things that's way more than some of its parts. Its particular combination of pinto bean, Chinese fermented mustard green, and subtle kick of chili make it a fantastic choice to smother over white rice, or to have as a smaller dish in the context of a larger meal. We love it so much that we've actually kind of covered it a couple times on the channel before. First, a quick and easy sort of version hidden in our ongoing over rice dish series, together with a dish in hot pot form inside our Intro to Hot Pot manifesto. But we've never actually showed you the dish proper, an oversight that we have to correct. So, we'll be teaching you the full version today, starting from dried beans. But because this is all pretty straightforward, we also want to teach you another version of the dish that sports crispy deep-fried beans, a dish that's probably a top 10 drinking snack in my opinion. So then, to get started, you'll predictably want beans. These are 110 grams of pinto beans, which are the most common choice in Guizhou, but kidney beans would also work great too. And really any starchy bean that you have experience with should work okay in the end. Just give those a quick rinse, and we will be giving them an overnight soak. But if you're one of those that are on team pressure cooker, just sort these however you'd usually cook up beans. Then, next day, for us that are sans pressure cooker, to a pot with a few liters of bubbling water. Toss in your now soaked beans and cover to cook. Depending on the freshness of your beans, this might take 60 minutes, 90 minutes. Just boil them until soft and done. But don't toss your bean cooking liquid. That stuff will form the base of the braise, so scoop out 1¼ cups worth and set it aside. Then, from the cooked beans, take out about 1/10 of them and mash them at first. This step is optional, but it'll help everything thicken up nicely later. So then just set those aside as well. Next, the titular swansai, Chinese fermented mustard greens. What you'll be looking for here is a pack a bit like this. The stuff's usually labeled pickled or sour mustard. And while in my opinion, swansai does work best for the flavors of this dish, I've gotten creative with kimchi before, ditto with sauerkraut, so maybe try to source that swansai if you can, but this dish can also totally work as a canvas. So just mince up 100 grams, and I personally like mine quite well minced for this dish. Then, now we can fry this all up. And as always, we'll first long yao. Get your wok piping hot, shut off the heat, add in the oil, here about 2 tablespoons of lard, but you can use whatever, and give it a swirl. Next, we'll be going in with 15 grams of smoked Larou, Chinese bacon. This bit is 100% optional, just for a bit of flavor, but I quite like it. And if smoked Larou's a tough source for you, simply frying up a bit of American-style bacon and starting this all in some bacon grease is also a tasty route. But for us, once our Larou's flavored the oil, about 1 to 2 minutes over low, we'll scooch those up the side of the wok and go in with some aromatics. 4 cloves of smashed garlic, 1 inch of smashed ginger, and the white portion of 1 large scallion, also roughly smashed. Swap your flame to high and fry those all till fragrant, about 15 seconds. Then also go in with 3 spicy dried chilies, halved, and give that all a quick mix. Then swirl in a tablespoon of either Baijiu or Shaoxing wine over your spatula and around the sides of the wok, giving it all a quick fry. Then, flame still on high, go in with your minced swansai. Fry the swansai for about 1 to 2 minutes together with everything until you can start to hear the greens kinda pop a touch. Then lower the flame and scooch everything up the side of the wok. Then, add in about 1.5 tablespoons more oil, and go in with your mashed beans from before. Break everything up a touch, and cook the mashed beans in the oil for about 1 minute until everything's even and looking vaguely roux-like. Then, up your flame again, and go in with your cooked beans. Gentle 30-second mix, then swirl a 1/2 tablespoon of soy sauce over your spatula around the sides of the wok. Quick mix, then go in with your bean cooking liquid, together with a 1/4 teaspoon each salt, sugar, and chicken bouillon powder. Then swap your flame down to medium and cover. Lid ajar if you've got something a little tighter fitting than this. Then, after about 8 minutes of cooking, you should be looking at something a bit like this. The final consistency here will be up to you though. If you wanted something kinda soupy, the dish is basically done as is. But we like this a little more on the saucy side, so we'll swap our flame to high to reduce. Optionally, remove any aromatics that you don't want in the final dish. We take out the ginger and the scallion white. And after 3 to 4 minutes of that reduction, we are looking at our desired swansai domi consistency. Then just hit it with a quarter teaspoon each MSG and dark Chinese vinegar, together with a sprinkle of white pepper powder and the sliced greens from that same large scallion. Quick mix, and out. Pickled greens and beans, done. Now, for our next dish, there's going to be a lot of similar pieces here, so let's just open things up with the beans already cooked. So same 110 grams of dried pinto, cooked till soft, same as before. For this though, we're going to want our cooked beans to be as dry as feasibly possible. These guys were laid out on some paper towels for a half an hour before coating. Then just toss in some cornstarch. Because these guys were nice and dry, they only needed 2 tablespoons here, but if you've got something a little wetter, they might need 3. Then toss in 1 teaspoon salt, mix well, and now to deep fry. So then, to some 150 centigrade oil, toss in your coated beans bit by bit. This will lower the temperature, which is fine because we're actually aiming to mostly fry these at about 100. Don't touch them at first so that they can develop a bit of a coating, then gently push them around to break it up. We're aiming to expel the moisture from the beans, which will take a bit of time, and also will keep that oil temperature hovering around 100. Once the beans have dried up a bit though, that oil temperature will start to creep up once again. We'll be taking these out once everything's hit back to about 140, or after about 7 minutes of frying in all. Then, just set those over to a paper towel-lined plate and reserve. Then, to a dry wok, heat things up over a high flame, and once everything's good and toasty, toss in your swansai. Same 100 grams worth, also minced. Toast it on high for the same 2 minutes or until it starts getting a bit poppy, and then take it out. Then, tablespoon of oil. Give it a swirl and go in with some sliced aromatics, which I'll list on the screen. And after a quick 15-second fry till fragrant, toss in 3 spicy dried chilies, this time sliced into centimeter sections. After a quick 15-second fry, toss in the fried beans, quick mix, swansai back in, and another good mix. Then, add in your seasoning. Quarter teaspoon each salt, sugar, and MSG, and give that another good mix. Swirl about a teaspoon of soy sauce over your spatula and around the sides of the wok. Quick fry, then toss in a quarter teaspoon 5-spice powder together with a bit of chopped scallion greens. Swansai su hong do, done. Perfect to devour right next to an ice-cold Qingdao, or maybe a chang in a pinch.
So pickled greens and beans can be considered a type of dishes or even a flavor profile in southwest China. Besides this one from Guizhou, which uses pickled greens plus red kidney beans. Another one that I really like, it's from Sichuan, where they use pickled greens plus dry broad beans. And that's often used as a base for the douhua hot pot. So check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. And of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.